You've spent your life surrounded by toxic people who drain your energy and manipulate your every move. But what if you could turn the tables and use their own tactics against them? Imagine becoming the master of your own fate, controlling the situation without lifting a finger in anger. In this video, I'll show you 13 Machiavellian strategies to deal with toxic people, not by fighting them, but by outsmarting them and reclaiming your power. Ready to stop being their pawn and start being the one who controls the game? Keep watching. In the world we live in, there are people who thrive on control, manipulation, and power. They move in shadows, pulling strings, and without realizing it, they drag you into their toxic web. But what if you could rise above this chaos? What if you could become the master of your own fate, using the very strategies they use against you, but with more precision, more control? Machiavelli once said, "The ends justify the means." And in dealing with toxic people, you must realize that the rules of their game are not the same rules you play by. In this game, the player who manipulates the environment and the players within it is the one who controls the situation. To deal with toxic people, you must first understand that their power lies in their ability to provoke, to distract, to manipulate. But their power is an illusion. The moment you recognize their weaknesses, you strip them of their power. The first step in mastering the art of dealing with toxic people is to learn how to remain calm. They will try to provoke you, to drag you into their chaos, but the moment you react, you lose. Patience, observation, and silence are your greatest weapons. You see, toxic people rely on your emotional responses. They expect you to react with anger, frustration, or even guilt. But Machiavelli taught us the power of silence. Silence is powerful because it forces them to question their own moves, to second-guess their control over the situation. When they can no longer provoke you into reacting, they begin to lose their grip. They lose because the energy they feed off no longer exists. And that, my friend, is the beginning of their downfall. The second step is understanding that toxic people are often trapped in their own insecurities. They may project strength, but behind that facade, there lies vulnerability. Their need for control stems from their fear of being exposed. And this fear, this insecurity, is your key to outmaneuvering them. Instead of confronting them directly, use their own insecurities against them. Plant small seeds of doubt. Subtly highlight their weaknesses, their fears, their flaws. When they begin to feel exposed, they'll start to self-sabotage. In the Machiavellian world, power comes from knowing others better than they know themselves. And when you know their weaknesses, you can manipulate them with ease. The third principle is to control the narrative. Toxic people often thrive on their ability to twist situations in their favor. They will spread lies, distort truths, and manipulate perceptions. But what if you could control the narrative? What if you could dictate how others perceive them? By remaining calm, by using your knowledge of their insecurities and weaknesses, you can subtly shift how others view them. People are often too consumed with their own lives to see the full picture. But you, by remaining observant and calculating, can subtly expose the truth. And when the truth is revealed, the toxic person loses their power, and you gain the upper hand. In Machiavelli's world, power isn't given, it's taken. Toxic people will try to undermine you, to break you down, but they can only do so if you allow them to. You must control the situation, control the narrative, and control your own emotions. The moment you allow them to get under your skin, you've lost. But by using their own tactics against them, by manipulating their perceptions and controlling their emotions, you turn the tables. You become the master, and they become the pawn. To deal with toxic people, you must also understand the power of timing. Machiavelli was never in a rush. He knew that the best time to act was when the situation was ripe for change, when the toxic person was off balance, or when they had made a mistake. In the game of power, timing is everything. The best strategy is to wait, to observe, and to act only when it will guarantee the greatest victory. When you rush, you lose. But when you wait for the right moment, the victory is assured. Finally, one of the most powerful tactics in dealing with toxic people is to make them feel that they are in control. Toxic people love to believe they are the ones calling the shots. And while they think they are in charge, you remain in the background, guiding them toward your desired outcome. By feeding their ego, by allowing them to believe they have the upper hand, you lead them down a path that ultimately serves your interests. They will never see it coming. And in the end, they will have given you everything you need to win. In conclusion, dealing with toxic people isn't about fighting fire with fire. It's about recognizing their weaknesses, understanding their insecurities, and using your knowledge to control the situation. You don't need to react emotionally. You don't need to engage in their drama. The key to winning is to remain calm, remain strategic, and remain in control. When you master these tactics, you will no longer be a pawn in their game. You will be the one calling the shots. And that, my friend, is the true power of Machiavellian strategy. As you move through life, you will encounter toxic individuals who will try to tear you down. They will use every tactic in the book to manipulate, control, and break you. But the truth is, their power is built on illusions of control, of dominance, of strength. The moment you see through these illusions, you can shatter them. The trick is to never allow them to make you believe that their world is the only reality. They will try to convince you that their manipulations are justified, that their actions are a reflection of your own failings. But in reality, the power always lies with the one who controls their emotions, their actions, and their environment. And you, my friend, have the ability to control it all. To truly deal with toxic people, you must understand the psychology behind their behavior. They operate out of fear. They fear being exposed. They fear losing control. And they fear being seen as weak. They will try to control everything around them to mask their vulnerabilities. But the moment you recognize their fear, you have already gained the upper hand. You don't need to confront them directly. Instead, you need to keep their fears at the forefront of your mind. Make them feel like they are the ones in control, all while subtly guiding them into a trap that they have no idea they are walking into. The most powerful tool at your disposal is your ability to remain composed. In a world where emotions drive decisions, remaining emotionally detached is your ultimate advantage. Toxic people thrive on chaos, on conflict, and on dragging others into their emotional storm. But when you remain calm, when you stay collected, they lose their power. Their ability to provoke you fades, and they are left grasping for control, only to find that it slips through their fingers like sand. The moment you refuse to react to their provocations is the moment you begin to reclaim your power. In the world of Machiavellian strategy, silence is a weapon. Silence speaks louder than words, and it disorients those who thrive on noise and conflict. You must also remember that toxic people are often creatures of habit. They fall into patterns of behavior that are predictable, and this is where your opportunity lies. By observing them closely, you can anticipate their every move. You don't need to fight them head-on. Instead, you can outmaneuver them by staying ahead of the game. Make them believe they are winning, and while they are focused on their supposed victory, you make your move. The key is to remain 3 steps ahead. Predict their actions, anticipate their responses, and use that knowledge to steer the situation in your favor. The one who controls the future controls the present. And never forget, in the Machiavellian world, appearances mean everything. Toxic people rely on their ability to manipulate the way others perceive them. They want to be seen as powerful, as untouchable. They will fabricate stories, manipulate facts, and create a false image of themselves to control how others see them. But power comes not from how others perceive you, but from how you perceive yourself. The moment you allow a toxic person to control your perception, you lose. The game isn't about being seen as powerful. It's about being powerful. It's about knowing your worth, knowing your strength, and never letting anyone make you question it. When you deal with toxic people, remember that it's not just about surviving their manipulation, it's about thriving in spite of it. They will attempt to break you, to use every tool at their disposal to make you doubt yourself. But the more they try, the stronger you become. The more they reveal their weaknesses, the more you learn. You must never let them see your pain. You must never let them see your fear. Instead, you must become the rock in the storm, unshakable, unbreakable. When they see that they cannot touch you, they will eventually give up. And when they do, you will stand tall, stronger than ever, having defeated them with nothing more than your mind and your will. In the end, dealing with toxic people isn't about confrontation. It's about control. You control the situation. You control your reactions. And you control the outcome. Machiavelli knew that power isn't something you give to others. It's something you take for yourself. And when you take control, you no longer need to fight. You simply outsmart them, outlast them, and emerge victorious. The game is never about who has the loudest voice, but who holds the power to silence the noise. And that, my friend, is the true essence of Machiavellian strategy. But remember, dealing with toxic people isn't just about neutralizing their power. It's also about understanding that the game never ends. In the world of power, there are no final victories. Every situation is temporary, and every strategy must evolve. Toxic people, just like the seasons, will change, adapt, and find new ways to try and manipulate. The key is to always be adaptable, always be learning, and always be ready to switch tactics when necessary. The moment you become complacent, the moment you think the battle is over, you've already lost. Power is a dynamic force, ever shifting and ever evolving. And the one who stays still, the one who is caught off guard, will always find themselves vulnerable. One of the most powerful principles in Machiavellian strategy is the art of deflection. Toxic people will try to pull you into their world of chaos, but the more you engage, the more power you give them. Instead, let them come at you. Let them unleash their toxicity. But instead of reacting, deflect. Redirect their anger, their manipulation, their schemes. Rather than allowing them to control the flow of the situation, take control by subtly deflecting their attempts to draw you in. The more they try to engage you in their drama, the more you push them away, and the more they will eventually tire themselves out. Their need for confrontation, for chaos, will lead them nowhere, while you remain calm, unscathed, and in control. In the realm of toxic people, you must also understand that there is power in walking away. Many will say that avoiding conflict makes you weak, but Machiavelli knew that there is a time to engage and a time to leave. The moment you recognize that a toxic person cannot be controlled, cannot be reasoned with, you must walk away. And this isn't a sign of weakness, this is a calculated decision. Walking away from a toxic situation is an act of strength. It shows that you are not willing to lower your standards to engage in their game. You refuse to allow them to drag you into their toxic environment. And by doing so, you regain your power. You reclaim your energy. and you leave them to drown in their own toxicity. The person who knows when to leave is the one who walks away with their power intact. Furthermore, toxic people often thrive on isolation. They want you to feel alone, to feel disconnected from others, so they can control you more easily. But Machiavelli understood the power of alliances. In the face of toxic individuals, it's important to build strong alliances with those who support your values, those who lift you up, not tear you down. Form relationships with those who empower you, and when the toxic people try to isolate you, you'll find strength in numbers. The more people you have on your side, the less power the toxic person can exert over you. They may try to divide and conquer, but you stand united, a force they can never defeat. Another key element to remember is that toxic people rely on your fear. They want you to be afraid of the consequences of standing up to them, of challenging them. But Machiavelli's greatest lesson was to use fear, not to avoid it, but to wield it as a weapon. Don't let them use fear against you. Instead, use their fear to your advantage. Let them fear the consequences of their own actions. Let them fear that their manipulation will be exposed. The moment they sense that their power is slipping, they will become desperate. And desperate people make mistakes. And when they make mistakes, you're the one who capitalizes on it. The fear that they instill in others can become the very thing that turns the tide in your favor. It's also important to recognize that power in dealing with toxic people comes from understanding their motivations. They manipulate, they control, they exploit because they are seeking something, whether it's validation, control, revenge, or something else. They are empty, and they try to fill that emptiness with power over others. But you must understand that their manipulation comes from their lack, not your weakness. You must see them for what they are: broken, empty, and in need of control. Their power is hollow, built on sand. And the moment you realize this, you will stop fearing them and start seeing them for the frail individuals they truly are. The true master of power doesn't need to constantly fight toxic people. They don't need to engage in endless battles. The true master knows that power lies in how you control the environment, how you control your emotions, and how you manipulate the perceptions of others. And toxic people? They are nothing but players in a game that you control. They will try to destroy you, but the real power lies in knowing when to fight and when to walk away. It lies in knowing when to expose them and when to allow them to self-destruct. It lies in recognizing that every toxic person has weaknesses, and that you, with your patience, strategy, and composure, are the one who can turn their weaknesses into your strength. In the end, toxic people are like storms. They come, they create chaos, and then they pass. But the master, the strategist, the one who understands the game of power, remains unaffected. You are not here to fight every battle. You are here to control the war. You are here to rise above the chaos and emerge victorious, not because you defeated them directly, but because you understood the game and played it better. In the world of Machiavelli, you don't need to be the loudest, the strongest, or the most aggressive. You simply need to be the one who understands the power of strategy, patience, and silence. And when you do, toxic people will no longer have the ability to control you. Because in the end, you are the one who holds the power. You see, toxic people don't just manipulate your emotions, they also manipulate your environment. They feed off the chaos they create, and they try to convince you that their actions are justified. But you must see through this illusion. The environment they create is a mask, a distraction. The true environment, the one you control, is based on your rules, your values, and your terms. Machiavelli understood that one of the most powerful things you can do in any situation is control the space. not just the physical space, but the mental, emotional, and psychological space around you. When toxic people try to control your environment, they do so by making you feel small, insignificant, or overwhelmed. They want you to be constantly reacting to their every move, to be caught in the web of their lies and manipulation. But the moment you recognize their game, the moment you stop reacting and start acting on your own terms, you change the dynamics. You create your own space. You set your own boundaries. And from that moment, they can no longer manipulate you because they no longer have control of the environment. In fact, the more they try to control you, the more you can use their own tactics against them. Make them feel insecure. Make them feel threatened by your calm, by your clarity, by your refusal to engage in their toxic behavior. When they sense that you are no longer afraid, no longer reactive, they begin to feel like they are losing. And this loss of control is one of the most disarming things you can do to them. You see, toxic people rely on your fear to keep you in check. When that fear disappears, they are left scrambling for a sense of power they can no longer find. Now, let's talk about another key element of Machiavellian strategy, the art of subtle persuasion. Toxic people can often be predictable, and they rely on manipulation to get what they want. But the true master of power knows that it's not about direct confrontation, it's about subtlety, about guiding others into making decisions that benefit you without them even realizing it. The power lies in how you influence the decisions and thoughts of others from behind the scenes, how you nudge them in the direction that you want them to go, without them ever realizing you were the one who moved them. When toxic people manipulate you, they do so by creating an illusion of choice, making you feel like you have control when in fact they are pulling the strings. But you can take that very tactic and turn it on its head. Instead of allowing them to manipulate you, you create the illusion of choice for them. You subtly guide them into making decisions that align with your goals. By doing this, you make them feel like they are winning, like they are in control, while you are silently orchestrating the entire situation. This level of subtle persuasion requires patience and skill, but it's a powerful tool when dealing with toxic people. Instead of fighting them, instead of confronting them head-on, you play the long game. You plant seeds of influence, and over time, those seeds grow into actions that serve your interests. The longer you can keep them believing they are the ones making the decisions, the more power you have.
But remember, just as Machiavelli would say, the ultimate goal is never to simply survive the manipulation of toxic people. The true goal is to thrive in spite of it. You don't just want to neutralize their power, you want to rise above it. You want to emerge stronger, wiser, and more in control than ever before. Toxic people may have the ability to bring chaos into your life, but they cannot touch your inner strength, your resilience, or your ability to adapt. That is your true power, the power that comes from within. When you begin to understand this, when you begin to see the game for what it really is, you stop being the pawn in someone else's game. You become the one who sets the rules. And the moment you take that power back, the toxic people in your life no longer have control over you. They no longer have the ability to drain your energy, to manipulate your emotions, or to control your actions. And that, my friend, is the ultimate victory. In the Machiavellian world, there is no room for weakness. There is no room for self-doubt. Every move you make, every decision you take, must be calculated, deliberate, and executed with precision. When you allow toxic people to manipulate you, you are handing them the power. But when you take control, when you see through their manipulation and outsmart them at every turn, you become the master. The key to dealing with toxic people is not about confrontation, not about fighting fire with fire. It's about control, strategy, and outthinking them at every level. The game is yours to win, and the victory is in your hands. This continuation should further build on the Machiavellian strategy, reinforcing the themes of power, control, and subtle manipulation. The speech is designed to keep the audience engaged, offering wisdom and strategies without direct confrontation. Let me know if you'd like me to go deeper into any specific part or add anything else. Power, in the Machiavellian sense, isn't about overt displays of force or aggression. It's about subtlety, finesse, and control. Toxic people want you to react, to fight back, to lose your cool. But the true master knows that when you react, you give them the one thing they crave: your energy. They feed off your emotions. They thrive on your chaos. The moment you let your emotions control your actions, they own you. But the moment you take control of your emotions, you take control of the situation. This is where the power of strategic detachment comes into play. Detachment doesn't mean you withdraw from the situation entirely. It means that you withdraw from their emotional influence. It means not allowing them to pull you into their web of lies, manipulation, and drama. You stay emotionally detached, calm, and in control. You observe their behavior, but you never allow it to provoke you. You remain a step ahead, always watching, always calculating. And as they try to drag you into their world of toxic energy, you remain unaffected, your calmness serving as a stark contrast to their chaos. The more you detach, the more they'll try to get under your skin. They'll attempt to provoke, to manipulate, to pull you into their game. But as you stay detached, you rob them of their power. You don't give them the satisfaction of a reaction, and you don't give them the chance to control your emotional state. The more they try, the more they reveal their desperation. And in that desperation, you see the cracks in their facade. You see their true weaknesses, and that is where your power lies. When toxic people can no longer manipulate your emotions, they lose their hold on you. The more they attempt to control you, the more they reveal their own vulnerability. They may try to isolate you, control your thoughts, make you question your reality. But you must remember that your reality is yours to shape. Their reality, their manipulation, is built on lies and fear. And fear is a weapon, but only when you let it control you. If you take that weapon away from them, they have nothing left to threaten you with. This brings us to a crucial element of Machiavellian strategy: perception. Toxic people are masters at creating illusions. They will try to make you believe that they are the one in control, that their narrative is the only truth, and that their words are the only ones that matter. But the truth is, perception is power. And the person who controls perception controls the game. If you can control how others perceive you, and how they perceive the toxic person, you control the narrative. In every situation, you have to be aware of how you are being perceived. How are others viewing you? And how are they viewing the toxic person? Are they being manipulated by their lies? Are they seeing through their facade? The more you shape the way others perceive the toxic person, the less power they have over the situation. Use subtle gestures, calm confidence, and a quiet strength to shift the perception in your favor. You don't need to fight them directly. You just need to shift the angle of the narrative so that others see the truth. And remember, as you deal with toxic people, there is always the option of strategic retreat. Sometimes, the best way to regain power is to remove yourself from the situation entirely. You don't need to fight every battle. Not every toxic person is worth engaging with. If you recognize that a situation is draining your energy, creating more chaos than it's worth, or that it's beyond your control, walk away. Machiavelli understood that sometimes, stepping back is the most powerful move. When you choose to leave, you are not conceding defeat. You are asserting your own power to control your environment. By walking away, you are removing yourself from their sphere of influence and choosing a path of peace and strength. As you master these strategies, you'll begin to see toxic people for what they truly are, not as giants, not as powerful forces, but as fragile, insecure individuals whose power exists only because you allow it. They manipulate because they fear exposure. They control because they fear being seen for who they really are. And the more you expose their weaknesses, the less power they have. But this exposure doesn't always have to be public. Sometimes the most powerful move is to quietly let them expose themselves. Watch them unravel as they react to your indifference, your calm, your calculated steps. Watch as their insecurities rise to the surface, their manipulations become obvious to others, and their control slips through their fingers. In the end, it's not about winning a battle with them. It's about maintaining control of your own life, your own mind, and your own emotions. It's about understanding that you have the power to shape the world around you, and that toxic people are merely players in a game that you control. The moment you take control of your emotions, your thoughts, and your actions, you are free. The moment you stop reacting, you stop being their puppet. And when you stop being their puppet, you become the puppet master. Power isn't about being the loudest, the strongest, or the most aggressive. It's about being the calmest, the most strategic, and the most patient. It's about knowing when to act, when to speak, and when to remain silent. It's about using your knowledge of others to subtly influence the situation, and it's about controlling your own environment. Machiavelli understood that true power isn't about dominating others, it's about mastering yourself, and using that mastery to shape the world around you. And when you learn to do this, toxic people no longer have any power over you. You are the one in control. With this final extension, the speech is further enriched with deeper strategies and psychological insights, all within the same Machiavellian theme of control, patience, and subtle manipulation. I hope this now fully aligns with what you were seeking, Mary John. Let me know if you'd like more, or if anything specific needs further refinement. As you continue to navigate the realm of toxic people, remember one thing: power is not always in the action itself, but in the silence that follows. In the presence of chaos, when everyone else is scrambling to react, the one who remains silent, still, and composed becomes the most powerful person in the room. Toxic people rely on your reaction. They thrive on your anger, your frustration, your fear. They want you to lose your calm, to lose your focus, because that is when they feel in control. But the moment you resist that urge to react, the moment you hold your ground in silence, you take away their power. Silence doesn't mean passivity. It is not about doing nothing. It's about strategically withdrawing your emotional and mental energy from the situation. It's about holding your position without giving away any of your cards. In the world of Machiavellian power, silence speaks louder than words. It unsettles those around you, especially toxic people who thrive on the constant noise of their manipulation. They will try to provoke you, to make you engage, but by remaining silent and composed, you create a void, a gap in their narrative, one that they are unable to fill. One of the most profound lessons Machiavelli taught us was that the true master of power is the one who knows when to speak and when to remain silent. Words, in the wrong hands, can be weapons of destruction, but silence is a weapon of control. When you choose silence, you are not giving in, you are asserting your control. You are making the decision that you will not let their chaos affect your peace. And this, my friend, is how you regain your power in a world of toxic manipulation.
One of the most profound lessons Machiavelli taught us was that the true master of power is the one who knows when to speak and when to remain silent. Words, in the wrong hands, can be weapons of destruction. But silence is a weapon of control. The final lesson that separates the truly powerful from the rest is this: mastering the art of remaining calm under pressure. Toxic people will push you, they will provoke you, and they will try to get under your skin. But the true strategist knows that the key to victory is staying grounded, maintaining control, and never allowing them to see your weakness. When you refuse to be rattled, when you refuse to let them control your emotions, you hold all the cards. They can try to manipulate, to deceive, and to break you, but they cannot do so unless you give them that power. And that's where the real power lies, in knowing that no one, absolutely no one, can control you unless you allow it. Toxic people will try to shake your confidence. They will make you doubt yourself, and they will use everything in their arsenal to wear you down. But the moment you decide that they no longer have the power to influence your life, you've already won. You don't need to fight them head on. You don't need to engage in their drama. And you don't need to prove yourself to them. You simply need to take a step back, observe, and see them for what they truly are: fragile, insecure, and desperate for control. You are the one who holds the power to shape your reality. You are the one who decides who gets to play in your world. When you realize this, you stop being their victim, and you stop playing by their toxic rules. You become the one who sets the boundaries, the one who makes the decisions, and the one who controls the game. The more you recognize this power, the more untouchable you become. And when you become untouchable, you become unstoppable. So, remember, power doesn't lie in fighting back with force or confrontation. It lies in playing the game better than they do. It lies in your ability to stay calm, stay composed, and stay strategic. It lies in your ability to observe, to manipulate perception, and to use their own tactics against them. Most importantly, it lies in your ability to walk away from the game when it no longer serves you, and to let them destroy themselves with their own mistakes. In the end, toxic people are simply players in a game they don't even know they've lost. And the true victor is the one who remains silent, who waits, and who controls the outcome with patience and precision. They may try to drag you into their chaos, but the moment you take control, the moment you stop reacting, the moment you outsmart them with strategy and silence, you win. Now, let's take a moment to reflect on this. Do you really want to continue being manipulated, reacting to every move they make? Or do you want to take control of the game and make them play by your rules? The choice is yours. The question is, who is really in control here?